Carrie Benuska, and I am a business manager with Side. And we have a treat. We've got an amazing group of individuals that are experts at our topic. So just a little introduction about me. I was actually 12 years in real estate in Pasadena, California. And I loved getting houses ready for sale. It was one of my favorite things. But back in the day, I feel like it was like kind of a special thing that I did, and was kind of, I could really establish it as my value add, where I was like, yeah, I do this, and other people that I was up against were not doing it. And I can honestly see that things have really, really changed, in that now it's far less a extra, it's something that's really expected. And now that we have companies that are actually providing money and doing lending, this is a topic that we all as realtors need to be up on. We need to know what we're doing. And it also is like an incredibly important thing, because we're talking about a lot of money potentially. So we want to make sure and do it right. We want to make sure and not give ourselves undue exposure. And so our group here is just here to help you all of us kind of come together around tips and advice, and then also just warnings about what not to do, because there's maybe a bigger list of warnings than there are of do's, so that we don't end up in a lawsuit and so that you don't get yourself into a financial issue. So I am going to ask each of our incredible panelists to introduce themselves. We'll start at the end.
I'm Jason Madani with Madani team in room. Oh, could you guys hear me okay? Cool. I'm Jason Madani with the Madani team in Room Real Estate, and we're based in Santa Cruz, California. We have 2 offices there.
Yes.
Oh, anything else you want to?
Well, how big is your team?
Okay, so right now we have about 22 buyer's agents. I have a listing manager, 2 listing managers, an in-house stager, an in-house moving company. We've got about 40. I think there's about 40 people between the back end and the sales force right now.
Okay.
And we've been growing a lot recently. So a lot of these are new hires. We were probably about half the size a year ago.
Great. Robin.
My name is Robin Webb, and my company is Vision Real Estate and Design. And we're based in Orange County, California, and then our office is in Laguna Niguel. And I call prepping a home for sale design to sell, and my first one was actually 2006, but then the crash hit, so I focused on short sales, etc. Anyway, in 2013, I officially went to design school and decided to make this my entire focus and business model. And so I've been doing design to sell since 2013, and really, really passionate about it.
Love it. Okay, then we've got agent partners, and then we have a special guest from Revive.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. I like to really enjoy seeing all the faces in the audience that I've heard and seen. I like to call this group the 10 percenters. But anyways, my name is Michael Aladowi. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Revive. Revive is a company that helps real estate agents bring every listing to market poised for maximum sale value. My background in real estate is in 2009, I was a fund manager of a family office that was in the home flipping business. And then a few years later, we pivoted that fund to be lending to other flippers, and then transitioned into building. And in that experience that I had, people would come up to me, like my parents and friends, and they'd be like, hey, I'm selling my house, and you build houses and you flip houses. Could you help me? And so what I realized back then, or a few years ago, is that an average Joe trying to sell their home has a really difficult time doing what a professional can really do, which is really simple: the power of leverage. Leveraging an ecosystem of service providers like designers and contractors to show up, to do their job well, do it on time. And so in helping some of my friends and family achieve their personal goals, and as Guy Cal puts it, what we're all trying to do is help people, make a little extra money so they could retire with dignity or start that new family. And so Revive from A to Z helps homeowners and agents be able to leverage an ecosystem of service providers, financing it, designing it from start to finish.
Love it. That's so great. So I'm going to ask questions of the two agents who, so you can see that we're going to be kind of setting up a situation where we've got, and actually our two agents do things differently as well. And what I love about this panel is we're not looking for cookie cutter, because this is not cookie cutter, right? So I'm going to ask Jason and Robin. I was talking about when I was doing it, it was kind of special that I was doing it. What percentage of your listings are you prepping and staging? And how many projects of those do you do a year?
I'll go first. So we've done about 120 so far this year. We have about 23 in the pipeline, and we encourage, I think 95% of our sellers to go with our program. Let us paint your house. Let us do up the yard. Let us make it sellable so we can get it sold faster and for more money. And in return, we get a higher commission and other things. But yeah, we encourage 95% of our sellers go with the program.
What about you, Robin?
I'm also at 95%, being that I am, unfortunately, the broker, project manager, designer, in charge of the budget, the realtor, the stager. Unfortunately, I can only handle 20 to 25 projects a year. Carrie will be helping me grow when I'm ready. I'm just not ready yet. And it involves letting go of control, so.
And then I think all of you can attest to, thank you, Robin. And it's not about, it doesn't matter if you're doing 5. It's just so that you guys can kind of get a sense of scale. I think it's important. And they're also in very different markets. So, even sitting down and talking how things work for them is really different because their markets are really different. But what is average budget on prepping a home for sale for each of you?
We're about a $25,000 average budget per house.
33,000.
For us, it's about $83,000.
Okay, perfect. And I want to point out, do you notice that they know what their average budget is? A lot of this is very grounded in systems and in really knowing your facts and figures. I'm interested about when you introduce this service. Is this like from right out of the gate when you're doing your listing presentation? Is this like, here I am? Or do you do it a little bit later? And like during your listing presentation, do you walk around and kind of give them a sense of what you want them to do? Or is that something that's handled a little bit later in the process?
So you really what I want to do is practice active listening and really find out what the seller's goals are. If their goals are to spend $80,000 on their house and fix it up, and that's the agent they want to go with, I'm the guy. If they want to do nothing and keep their terrible furniture, we'll list the house. But we do suggest that we do the improvements, but I do it, depending on the scenario and feeling out the client. I kind of use my street smarts to figure out what they really want, because some people won't list with you if you want to do more than what they want to do. So my job is to, for our company is to get as many listings as we can to supply my buyer's agents with leads. So, and do the best job we can, no matter what the client wants. So we kind of mold ourselves to what their needs are, but we do encourage them and tell them the benefits to painting, staging, getting their stuff out of there will help. But if they don't want to do it, we backtrack and say, okay, we can still sell your house.
That's interesting. That's good. What about you, Robin?
So I work 90% on referrals. So when people call me, they already know that I do design to sell, and that's why they're calling me, and that's why they're interested. With that said, they still have to decide what level of commitment they want, because some people think that their house is already beautiful and they just want my staging. And then some are like, oh no, we know this is a TD, total dump, and we need you to make it pretty. But one thing you have to be really careful of, I'll never forget this one appointment. I walked in and I could tell that they had just spent, and we all know travertine's out, right? Got it, okay. I'd walked into this appointment and I could tell there was freshly laid hopscotch tumbled travertine all throughout the house. I knew it was new. I could tell by the grout, right? And so as much as I hated it and knew it was a problem, I did not bring it up as a suggested improvement. Later on, about a month into the project, the homeowner told me, if you told me to take out this travertine, we wouldn't have hired you.
That's awesome. Super wise.
You got to pay attention.
Yeah, super wise. What about you, Michael? What do you like? So you're brought into the process. So you're not at the listing appointment. Have you ever gone in a listing appointment with someone?
Yeah, Revive actually, is kind of a partner with a realtor, where when they have a listing or a potential listing, we're doing like a huddle with them. And so we're strategizing on budget, on scope, kind of coming up with a plan tailored to kind of what your specific, like you said, some clients might be all on board and all ears, and some may already be really kind of fixated on what they want. So we huddle with the realtor, and then in some cases, we actually present with you to help get that listing presentation with you as an extension of your team. But just to kind of go back just one notch, I think that in today's environment, every realtor should at least be offering the option. Whether the client takes it or not doesn't matter, because if you're not pitching it or pitching your best, showcasing all the tools in your belt, then, you could be, falling behind and not, shining like you should. So I think to your previous question, when do you bring it up, and how do you, or when do you, or who do you bring it up to? It's like every client you bring it up, and what is a little, I think you guys maybe do this, I'm not really sure from what you're saying, but when we talk to realtors and homeowners, all the decisions are rooted in ROI. So it's like, what's your house worth today? What could it be worth? I mean, if the difference is only 100,000, well, hey, look, you can only spend like 50. So how are you going to spend that 50? We're going to put a plan together for you.
Right.
If it's,
and you're on to he's already on to the next question. I love that. Yeah. And I mean, in the end, well, I kind of think a couple things. Part of it is anymore in our digital age, people are learning and seeing your listings largely because they're seeing it on the internet, right? And we need it to look really, really good online. But that's just kind of superficially. So we also have, there obviously is a lot more than just making it look a glossy finish. So what we're talking about here is you're only going to be asking them to do things that are improving their ROI. So how do you go about kind of like quantifying that for sellers? Because I know I'm thinking they're going to be like, okay, you want me to do this? Well, how much am I getting for it? How do you do that? How do you quantify, or how do you talk to a seller about that?
Usually a seller has an idea of what price they want to get for their house, and our goal is to kind of figure out what we need to do to get them that price. What improvements do we need to do? So instead of getting too much into the ROI, we kind of, for example, I mean, we haven't really figured out our exact percentage, but we know we've had houses that we've tried to sell without improvements and then put them back on the market doing the improvements. One of them we listed at 1.2, and we ended up selling it for 1.450 with $20,000 of improvements. So, I mean, that's a huge ROI. So, but we try to get their, what their goals are, and usually find out, we show them the comps. We kind of try to find out what they're looking for in value, and then we figure out what improvements we need to do to the house to get them that price.
Robin, you have a much more, both of you guys have, like, this is kind of Jason, but not everyone's Jason, right? Just kind of having a sense. You guys are very rooted in facts, and you too. Can you tell us a little bit about how you quantify that?
So one of the first things that I do before I go to a listing appointment is I look at the highest sale that's ever taken place in the neighborhood. That's our target, or higher. And you have to start there. You can't start with what the house needs. You have to start with what's the highest price you can get for this house. Because we strive for 3x. So if they invest 30, we want the house to sell for 100 grand more than it would have, so that they get a 300% return on investment. So anyway, if I know the highest sale that ever took place in that neighborhood was 1.3, then I'm gonna have to make sure that our target's 1.350 or 1.4, and then what is it worth now? Maybe it's worth 1.1 or 1.2. I have to work my budget on that. So then I have to prioritize what we're spending the money on. Then what I always explain to them is 80-20. Everything in life's 80-20. But we are trying to please 80% of what buyers want. 80%, because 20% of people have eccentric taste. So we're not designing for them, I have to tell them we're not designing for you. We're not designing what you like. It's the 80%. And that's where having the expertise as a real estate agent really matters, because I've been doing it 17 years, and I can tell them I did the math, I've shown over 4,500 homes. That's 4,500 times I've watched a buyer react to light, orientation of furnishings, improvements, textures, finishes. And that's where the designer-realtor combination is so special, is because I do know that 80%. But that's how we start, is what's the highest we can get, what's it worth now, and then we have to determine the budget, and then we prioritize the budget. Budgets can get really out of control, and I'm seeing people start this design to sell model, and other companies are doing it, and I'm seeing them go overboard. And sometimes people are getting caught up in, oh, you know what, we really need to wire this entire house. And it's like, that's great. I'm sure once the buyer moves in, they're gonna be so happy that you spent that money, but it's not gonna get you a higher price. It's not gonna get you a higher price when the bidding war happens. It's just not.
What about you, Michael? Because you guys are really...
Yeah, I mean, so we have a kind of a similar process, but really like flippers and investors have a pretty strict process. And I kind of have the benefit, or had the benefit, of sitting in on a lot of presentations. And I think the hardest thing, or the thing that I could maybe give you feedback on, the most successful agents that I worked with, they really have to reel in the reality to their client of what is the as is.
Yeah.
Because if you don't really know what the as is and what the potential is, then you're shooting in the dark and setting yourself up for failure. So I think, but yeah, we have a process where we get with the realtor, we look at the comps, and we sometimes push on the realtor, like, really, you think the as is this? Like, we want to make sure that your client, we get on the same page with that. And then you share that with the client, and it's empirical. It's like, this is the value add, and in order to get, $500,000, you're not going to spend 20. You're not going to spend 30. You need to spend like 40, 50% of that delta to really change the perception of that value. Because you're creating value by doing what you're doing, and you have to spend money to make money.
Sure.
So.
Perfect. Okay, so what about... Oh, I do. I'm going to throw a question at you that we did not discuss.
Not allowed.
Yes, no, it's happening. Okay, so you've done all these improvements, do you price super high, or do you still, I was always a big value pricer. Like, I wanted to price a little bit below because I wanted multiple offers. After you do all this, do you price it high, or do you still provide some value pricing?
There's a lot of value in having a good marketing price that goes with the advertising. So if you have a good price that goes really well with the marketing, you're going to get multiple offers and drive the price up and over-exceed the client's expectations, and they're really stoked on that. So it's really to pick a price that's going to go with the marketing. It's going to be like, wow, that place looks really amazing. It's staged, fresh paint, fresh yard, and an awesome price. You'll just get more.
So let's not use this as an opportunity to overprice, I think is what I was kind of getting at.
I agree with him. And when we first present Design to Sell, we present it as a business case. It's fully fledged out. All the numbers are there. Everything's listed down to the pull on the cabinet. And we set a target sale price. And we set that as an expectation. And I try really hard to underpromise and overdeliver so that I can sleep at night. But what happens is sometimes we finish the home and it's more beautiful than we thought it would be, or a comp came up that's going to make it higher. So there's nothing more exciting for a seller than saying, oh, we were going to list it at 1.8, but I've decided we're going to list it at 1.9. And they just, really? And
yes.
Really? But like Jason, I'm really not, it does depend on price point a little bit. When you have, like I have a $5.5 million one right now, right. You've got to, those buyers in my market, they all want to negotiate. Nobody's paying list price at that price point in my market. So we have to price a little higher on those. Otherwise, we just try to price it right where we think it is, and then let it overbid.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's start talking about the extent of the services, because we're talking preparing a house for sale. There's it's not just, as we say, putting a glossy finish on it. What is the extent of the services you provide, from beginning to end?
So we get bids. We build a spreadsheet. We get bids for paint, carpets, the basic cosmetics, the yard. We basically build a spreadsheet, get quotes. Sometimes we get multiple quotes depending on the client. And these are vendors that we basically, they pretty much work for us because we get them paid right away. I'm usually using my own funds or a line that I have to, mostly my own funds, to lend these guys our money and pay the contractors very quickly. So, yeah, paint, carpet, staging, the basics are the most important things.
Got it. What about you, Robin?
If they really do have a home that's turnkey, then we can just stage, right? But it's usually more, there's some remodeling that's taking place. So what I do is I provide the budget management, the project management. I've been using the same team of contractors, and they're all subs, and they're all licensed, except my finished carpenter, which of course I disclose. We can get into that later. But I've been using the same contractors for 8 years. So they give me amazing pricing, and they show up. And there's nothing more important right now than them showing up. And just a quick little anecdote on that. I had this listing appointment, and the guy meets me, says, we've been following you for 5 years. We've always known we were going to use you. What do you want to list the house at? I said 1249. He just about fell out of his chair. It was my listing, right? And I had a $5,000 budget for him. That's it. We were going to do like 3 things. That's it. He called me 2 days later and said, my wife found a realtor who says we can get one for, sorry. Anyway, that was 3 months ago. They still haven't listed. And do you know why they haven't listed? They can't get bids.
Right.
They can't get bids. They can't get anyone to show up for the bids. That's how hard it is with
That's called an
contractors right now.
yeah. Oh, they can't. Oh, they can't. It's
They
not
can't-
that they can't. They can't even
It's
get
not that they
anyone.
haven't even started the work.
Got it.
They
Got it.
can't even get the bids. They can't find the people to do what I already had the people to do,
Yeah.
and get it done. We'd have been on the we'd have closed escrow 40 days ago. So
I'll come back to you,
yeah,
Robin.
I'm hearing more and more of that. There's a certain company that's lending money out, and I think they're just starting doing it. Their contractors don't show up, and if I lose a listing, they're like, not on the market yet, and they overprice it. It seems like everything goes wrong. So really having good networking, like with your vendors and contractors, to show up on time and do a good job, it's really important.
Michael, talk to us about the extent of Revive's services.
I think it runs the gamut, like what you guys are saying. It's really rooted in that ROI, so it could be as small as a stage. Our smallest project we've ever done is like 5,000, and our biggest one's 850,000. So it really just depends on that value add. The thing that we like to focus on is, can we get it done in 4 to 8 weeks? We don't want to be doing 6-month projects. Is kind of where we draw the line.
Well, and I think the other thing that they didn't really mention is that everyone, so Robin's said that she went to design school. Room has designers on staff. So I think that's the other thing that you need to be very careful about, is if it's not your expertise in design, you're not going to be, and especially if you're new, I mean, I think it's really important that you get very grounded at what works, what doesn't work, what adds value, what doesn't add value. But everyone up here uses designers as well, since Robin's her own project managers, all of that. I'm curious about getting permits. Do you all get permits, and do you use licensed contractors?
It's a very good question. So if it's a roof or a septic, something that needs a permit, like a sewer lateral, we get permits for those things. Our painters, most of them are actually licensed. I think we have one vendor who's really affordable, who's not, and we totally disclose that. Our handymen aren't licensed. Our carpet guys, I think they have insurance. But we try to, for something important that has a lot of liability, like heating, or if the heating unit's broken and we need to fix that, or there's a plumbing problem, we definitely want to use licensed people. But for our handymen and simple jobs and yard work, they're not licensed.
What about you, Robin?
all of my contractors are licensed, bonded, and insured. It's something we take very seriously. And we avoid permits if at all possible. Now, if we get tattled on by the neighbors, we got to do a permit. And again, like Jason, there's some things you obviously need a permit for, right? But there's some things that if you're remodeling a bathroom, the city would love for you to get a permit because they want the money. But the reality is, it's fine, right? And our buyers, they want to know that the work's been done by licensed contractors and it's a quality job our buyers in my market don't really care if it's permitted. There might be 5% of buyers that care about that. And all the permitting is going to do is really slow you down and really increase cost. So I don't know if this is good for me to be saying this out loud or not.
Well,
but,
we're talking truth.
but
we're
we
talking
try,
truth.
we
we're
try,
talking
to
truth.
avoid them.
Yeah. What about
Yeah.
Revive? What's your philosophy?
So Revive does about 60 to 70 renovations a month. We have a network of service providers that are all insured. The priority for us is insurance and licensure. So as a company that does what we do, we never recommend not to get permits. However, we let the homeowner kind of dictate sometimes. And it's the contractor's license who's on the line. So minor stuff, like if we're doing a bathroom, kind of like a like for a like. And there are loopholes that contractors have. Like if they're a licensed plumber, there's certain things they could do in a kitchen that doesn't require them to do a permit, where someone else, like a general, would require to get permits. But largely, we let the homeowner drive it, and if the contractor's okay with it because it's a like for like, then it's kind of up to them. But I would say the pandemic really changed things because of the limited demand, buyers don't care. And then because of the pandemic, cities are taking longer and longer to approve permits. So we see more and more homeowners saying, you know what, it's a like for like if the contractor's willing to do it and they feel comfortable. So sometimes they do opt not to do permits.
Let's talk about.
I want to add one thing
Oh,
on
yeah,
that.
please.
It's important, and I think you guys will learn a lot from it. But my dad was a contractor, and he taught me something, and it's absolutely held true. Whenever you need a permit, have the homeowner go get it. Cities are so much faster, so much more lenient, and so much nicer to a homeowner working on their own home than a contractor. That's my 2 cents.
Well, and that goes to my next question, which is getting bids. I mean, I've heard people say that you really should always have 3 bids for every, for if you were getting a plumber, they should have 3 bids. How do you separate yourself, or do you separate yourself? Because I think that is part of the protection is, and then also with the payment, who's paying for these things? So how do you, and are there any specific systems that you have to kind of keep track of all this?
We always offer the client we can get multiple bids, and a lot of times we get 2. Sometimes we get 3, but a lot of times we try to pick the painter or the person who can get to the job within the time frame, because it is hard even for us to find people to be able to do it. For the jobs, we lend our own money and use a line to help them with the improvements. Every once in a while, I get a client who would want to use their own funds to do it. Sometimes I just like lending ours, just because it's easier. We pay the contractors, and they keep us on their A list because they get paid on time. What was the last?
Yeah, no, I think that's good. Well, what about systems? I mean, you guys, I'm assuming you have spreadsheets and,
There's I'm not the spreadsheet guy. I'm the leverage guy. So we have tasks on a program called Asana, and that we have virtual assistants that help with coordinating the bids. I have a listing manager and a listing coordinator who work together as a team to make sure the clients are getting bids. And we also want to make sure that they're signing the bids, signing a loan agreement with us. We're lending this to them at no interest, and we're lending it to them as long as it takes to sell their home. There's a lot of systems and a lot of paperwork. When you start doing this kind of stuff, you have to really make sure that you have everything signed, and every single bid needs to be signed, and they need to know how much it's costing and all that stuff, every detail. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I get a client calling and say, hey, I thought I wanted to do the trim. No, you canceled that on your last bid, and you signed this one. So really having it organized, because if you don't have it organized, you could end up maybe eating some of that. You're not we're not making money on the project. We're making money on the sale of the home, but sometimes the client comes back and says, hey, I'm not paying for that. I didn't authorize it. So making sure everything's signed and that they're aware and they've seen it in a text, an email, that they've had a conversation, sometimes all 3. There's a lot of back-end work to it.
paper trails. I know I've been on the phone late at night with Robin when she's working on her spreadsheet, so I know you have.
Yeah, this is one of those, don't do it the way I do it. I live in Excel, I live there, and I spend way too much time on it. And I'm going to talk to you about that. But yeah, we keep track of our budget in Excel, mainly because when you're presenting metrics to your future clients, you want to show them that you came in under or on budget. And I can go into any listing appointment and tell them I can basically guarantee we will be within 3% of this number. Most general contractors end up going 20 to 40 to 50% over budget because of change orders and things that the homeowners do. But it's so important to us. So if something comes in way higher than we thought it was going to, we have to pull something out. Sometimes you want to splurge on something because you know it's going to have a big impact. Something else has to come down because we are really fixed on that budget.
But then you also do an oops. I love it. She
I
calls it an oops.
I have an oops budget for every single project, and it depends on the size of the project. So I have one right now that's $650,000. It's my biggest project I've ever done by far, and our oops budget is $30,000, right? Because there's a lot that can go wrong when you're spending that much money and you're doing the work that we're doing. So, but otherwise, like on a $33,000 budget, I'd have a $1,500 oops budget. But you have to have it because even as a designer, I'll make a mistake, right? I'll make a mistake, and you don't want to end up. There's little things that you might not be thinking about, and something will happen where you order a range and you already measured it and you know it's 30 inches, but for whatever reason, the way the counters got cut, it's not sliding in. Who's paying for that recut? Who's paying for the cabinet modification so that the chunky handles fit in the front, right? And so these are all things I've learned now. I don't make the same mistakes twice, but you got to have that oops budget because you have to tell them, I'm human. My contractors might make a mistake. We might run into an unforeseen issue. I might make a mistake.
What about your systems, Michael? I'm assuming it's impressive.
Well, you know, I'm listening to you guys, and I know you kind of said a little bit, but if I could just ask a question. So it sounds like you have significant resources dedicated to making this work. I mean, I don't envy you guys. I actually really admire what you're doing because I know how hard it is. Yeah. But how much like resources are you dedicating to having this a well-oiled machine in your organization?
How much money we have out right now?
Not money, but like actual like fixed assets, like the coordinator, the project coordinator, designer, the guy that pays the contractors.
There's a lot of people on salary that are watching all this stuff. So they're they're pretty much all salaried or some bonused. And we have virtual assistants in the Philippines and other places that help out with a lot of the back end to reduce the cost from having to need more people to do the amount of like right now I think there's like 23 projects going right now.
So not to like plug Revive, but to plug
I
Revive.
think that's what you're supposed to do anyway.
Yeah.
So.
But well, I'm just saying, like, did you know about Revive, for example, before coming here today?
How long have you guys been around?
Well, we've been around for 2 years, and really with Side for just since January.
It's cool that you guys have that program to be able to do that. You know, because we started doing it probably. I mean, I started doing this about 10 years ago, where we just started lending. This is. Kind of a thing we started doing, way back when. But having your program that's pretty cool.
What we've really set out to do is help a brokerage like yours scale without investing in those fixed assets, right? And I know, Robin, you're different because I told you already, you're a unicorn because she's a designer. She's passionate about design. I have a feeling she likes that control. But I think for
not a good thing. Maybe a little.
But for most people, like doing what you said is just, I mean, I know how much work it is, but anyways, that's what we're trying to solve for is the realtor who wants to do this, but doesn't want to hire that project coordinator, that accounting person, and then all these things that go wrong and presenting the budgets and what if and what if and what if.
Well, and it gets you guys then out of the middle of it, which is nice. Whereas Robin's square in the middle of it, Jason's team square in the middle of it. And I do want to make a plug that Revive will be out at the Genius Bar. And we have materials in the back, so it's a wonderful resource. I want to save time for questions, but there's two more things. One of them is my favorite, which is, do you make your sellers move out of the house, and how do you deal with like the sellers, like grandmother's dining room table and that kind of stuff?
I would lose a lot of listings if I asked the sellers to move out. So we bought 80 houses worth of furniture so they can live in the house while it's for sale. So we don't ask them to move out. If they were willing to move out, some of them are willing to, and they do move out. That's great, and when they're not there while we're doing the remodeling, even better. But no, we don't ask them to move out. We want to get our goal is to get, at our goal is to get the listing.
Yeah. Robin has a far more clever Or not clever, but
so
a
Jason said at the
direct
beginning, though, active
approach.
listening, when you go into that listing appointment, you have to feel out, is this someone that's really determined to stay here through this, that's going to sit through a remodel and is going to cling on to the casing on the door until they have to leave? Because if you get that read, you should be careful, right? But we have an acronym. I'm not going to spell it out for you, but it's GTFO. There is nothing worse than the homeowner being home when we're doing this. It's awful. They are breathing down my contractors' necks. They're calling me 20 times a day. I'm not sure about this paint color. I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure about that. And at the end of the day, I have a vision. I know exactly how it's going to look when it's done, and I know it's going to look good. And they'll get so fixated, like we talked about, like a bump on the wall or a light switch plate that's just slightly crooked. They'll get so fixated on those things. It's really a headache. So if we can, GTFO, that's our goal. But like him, I got to get the listing. So if I can tell it's somebody that really, really needs to stay and wants to stay, we're going to work around him.
What about you, Michael? Do you move them out?
For Revive, it's a must. But we do offer money to help them maybe relocate during that period of time. So a lot of times people, because it's like, if you're going to put your house on the market today, it's going to sell, like in days, right? If it's turnkey and looks beautiful and it's priced right. So why live through that renovation, make it uncomfortable for yourself and everybody and the liability? So we insist on it, and we pay people to move out. You know, we just say, hey, you need 20 grand, 10 grand to find an Airbnb for a month? Here you go.
I give them a bonus if they move out. I give them a $2,500 reduction commission credit if they move out.
Okay, I skipped a super important question, which is, do you get paid extra for what you do?
My commission, 90% of our commissions are at 6%, and we take 3.5% on the listing side. And we also charge $2,500 for the staging. We do bill it to escrow, so they don't have to pay for it in advance. But 90% of our listings are at the top, and we're even dabbling at some of the bigger, when we lend out bigger amounts of money when it's a longer project. We've done a couple where we charged 7 or 8% on the listing side, and we only offer out 2.5%. But the project management, the salaries, Michael's question, it is hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and I'm the one stuck with the tab. So, and also some of the, if there's a complicated situation, my listing manager's amazing. She handles almost every fire, but every once in a while there's one that's really bad, and I have to get involved, which is not what I'm wanting to do or supposed to do. But yeah, it's a lot of. It helps I can beat out a lot of the competition in our area by doing this, but it's a lot of work.
And then what about you, Robin? How do you get paid?
We do a 5.5% listing, and I take 3%. Now, there have been some times when the price point is so low that extra 0.5% doesn't make sense for me. Like, I have one in Laguna Woods right now, which is a retirement community. Those sell for $100,000. I do a 10% listing in there. I always have a listing in there. You would think 10% would scare them away. It doesn't. But again, you've got to look at it, right? And then on those clients, I also charge them $4,000 for the staging on top of the 10%. But otherwise, that 3%, I do the staging all on my own. I don't charge them for any of it. I don't want to get in an argument with them about the sofa. I don't want to get in an argument with them about the mint green bison painting. So if I'm paying for it, there's no argument. I just bring in what I bring in.
Right. Okay, perfect. And then how do you guys get paid?
So we don't charge the realtors or clients anything. Everything gets paid through escrow, and Revive makes its money really from the service providers, acting as an extension of their marketing and design. You know, we do the design for them, we do the material sourcing for them, we deliver them ready to sign contracts, not leads. So we get paid from the contractor. But the realtors that we work with, I would say, 90+% of them leverage what they're offering through Revive to charge more. And I would say I've seen 3.5, 4 pretty consistently, especially in the Bay Area.
Nice. Okay, we have a little less than 6 minutes. I've got my own Vanna White. Katie Bobo has a microphone. Is there anyone who has questions? I want to provide time, and if no one has questions, I have more things I can ask. But does anyone have a question? Over here.
How quickly does Revive get into the property? I could see the convenience for the two of you, having it in-house. and getting your people out there pretty quickly.
Yeah.
If someone were to leverage your services, how quickly do you guys get out and get the quotes and get the ball rolling?
So when the realtor's out on a job, they're taking pictures, they're entering that address on our app, and they're uploading the pictures. And then, so we're already coming to a meeting with pictures to discuss budget and scope. And then once we feel like this is a good candidate, we schedule a Matterport to come out, like within 24 to 48 hours. We get a Matterport. That way our designers can walk through the house, take measurements, and have a better conversation with the clients about their home.
Anyone else?
I have a question for you too. I know with Revive you have certain requirements that you have to meet in order to qualify. Can you elaborate on what those are?
Sure. Revive is not a lender, and we don't do anything credit-based. Everything is equity-based, and it's pretty simple. We just want to make sure the client has enough equity in the home that the contractors, or we, actually, Revive, could get paid back for that work through escrow. And it's pretty simple. We just need a mortgage statement, a prelim that the realtor gets to verify debt.
Perfect. Anyone else? 4 minutes. Oh, we got one over here.
And Carrie, don't forget legal.
Yeah, and while she's walking over there, I do want to make sure that you guys know that each one of these people have an agreement that needs to be signed that is there to protect them. And so before we leave, we need to make sure and just kind of make sure you guys understand that. Super important. Yes?
Yeah, if the property doesn't sell, how are you guys recouping your costs? Are you billing the client at the end, or, and it could not sell for a variety of reasons, not anything that you guys did. Maybe they changed their mind or death or divorce, but how are you getting your costs back?
Perfect lead into the design.
All
Yeah.
of mine have sold, but if they decide they want to stay, which let me tell you, the first couple of years I did this, people decided they wanted to stay. They loved it. Whew, I got burned. So now I charge a fee up front for design, and it is fully credited and refundable at close of escrow, deducted from the commission. But that's what I have to do to protect myself. Otherwise, I end up doing all that work, and they're like, thanks for the remodel.
But I think that everyone here is in a market where it's gonna sell. I mean, these people are gonna,
Yeah.
can we agree to
But
that?
I think there's people that have life things that could happen
Yep.
that where they want to stay for whatever reason. And so we give them 12 months, and it's simple. You just pay if you change your mind. No big deal. And that's why we like working with realtors, and we only work with clients that have a listing agreement. Because if you don't have a listing agreement, then how serious are you about selling? Right. So if a client were to come to us, or even you came to us, we'd be like, all right, show us the listing agreement, because we're not going to move forward if they're not serious.
So Jason, you're lending the money. Do you have an enforcer on your staff that just goes out if they aren't gonna close,
Lake
that they
breaker?
just send them out?
You know, we've only had a few people that no enforcers. We don't have that. I've had a few people call up and say, hey, you know, the move didn't. We had a life change. We're going to be staying. It's only happened a few times, and I do have an agreement. Good question. That they pay me back within 30 days. So we've actually gotten paid. We haven't had any bad situations, but I've had some really close calls.
Calls.
I was actually on one phone call today, which was, kind of scary, but it motivates me in a way to really make sure that we're going to get this deal closed.
Jason,
Use
will
Revive.
you stay?
Motivates you to use Revive.
Yeah, will you stay on the mic and tell them about your loan? So you're lending money, and you have a loan. You protect yourself through a loan agreement,
Yep.
correct?
Something we could record against the property as a lien if we had to. I had an attorney drafted up for us. We definitely want to work on making it even better, but yeah, we do have an agreement.
Okay, and then Robin, tell us about the design agreement.
I won't fund my own projects. I'm already doing way too much and way too interwoven into everything that's going on, and I don't want the conflict of interest or the legal complications. So, and that's just a personal choice for me. I do have a hard money lender that's more affordable than any other hard money lender out there because they believe in our model. They know they always get paid back, so their fees are really reasonable. With that said, I do have a design agreement that everybody has to sign. It's honestly, it's pretty egregious. It absolves me of anything. And that could be them not liking how something turns out. That could be buying a slab and deciding they don't want it. I mean, I'm completely covered on that design agreement. And you've got to be careful because, again, if the California State Licensing Board finds out you're acting like a general contractor, they will come in and shut you down. So you have to make very sure that if you're a designer like me or a project manager like me, have the bids, because I get wholesale pricing, because I've been doing this long enough, I get wholesale pricing on slabs, flooring, carpet, whatever. All those bids, they need to have the client's name on it, not yours. It could be your account, right? Because you're meeting minimums and you're getting awesome discounts, but make sure your client's name is on it, not yours. And make sure you have a design agreement.
And I think that is so great. We're at 0. I saw you had a question. I'm sorry. Maybe you can come up afterwards and ask. But I guess that this is the other benefit to having Revive because they're standing in between, which is wonderful. But yet, I hope you can see that each one of these special individuals is doing it well and doing it differently, and there is not one way to skin a cat. And I hope that you've benefited from it, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.